Yes, Sherry, how are you? And I can't believe it. It's a perfect time to write a book, right? Getting into the new year, things like that. And with Storehouse Media, you make it a lot easier than a lot of other processes when you have to write a book, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it is the perfect time of the year because, everybody's like, oh my goodness, it's almost Christmas time and we're going into a new year. So people start looking at these New Year resolutions and what they want to achieve. And it is a good time to get started now, to start thinking and processing that. Uh and I know people they go and they search for information, and that's always good because you need to always know your process. But talking to someone, getting the help, for sure, it helps speeds that process up.
Oh, it totally does. And when you're able to to do that, you offer the opportunity to talk to you to kind of really explain, find out what they're really looking to do in writing a book, right?
Yes, yes. You go with the basic questions. What genre, who's your market, fiction, nonfiction, and then you take that, you go from there. And so you walk them through, like, this is what you need, the very basics. And some people, man, they're like, whoa, I got it. And some people, they're like, oh, they're still intimidated. They still, um, are kind of hesitant. But I say, do something, get something going, because we've talked about it. And again, I go back to the same old thing. There's a lot of books and graveyards because there's a lot of people who want to, and yet they never get around to doing it.
When they meet with you, what kind of questions do you ask?
Well, I just I like to get to know people. I'm a big backstory kind of girl. Like, what are you wanting to write, and why? Motivation is huge to me because that's going to tell me a lot. Are they doing it because they feel like they have to? They've been told they need to write a business book or this or that, or are they doing it because they're passionate? And that is something I can always work with. I can teach you skills all day long, but I can't teach you passion. That's something you have to have. And I always say, take that first book and whatever you're passionate about, that's what you want to write about. So, we talk about it, which is the best way. And then, they tell me what they're looking to do. And I tell them, okay, well, based on all this, this is what we can do. And so we customize everything. I've been doing this for 20 years. And my team and I have had over 500 books. We're award-winning publisher. We know pretty much how to navigate everything in the book world. So we customize everything, every aspect, because your book is not going to be like, Jim Smith's book. It's not going to be like, Mary Jones' book. Everybody is different. Your motivation, your purpose, the message, everybody's different, and you need to be treated as such.
100%. And if you can be treated as such, that's the important part because a lot of times you're not treated as a number or get it done instead of looking at quality. And we talked about big bestseller, things like that. Once you get to know their backstory, do you really kind of give them some tips in that first call to see if they're really ready yet or what do they need to do next?
Yeah, I will. I'll give them tips. Really, that's a really good question. Based on where they're at, because I'm trying to read between the lines on, what do I think, really their level of motivation is. Because a lot of people, they toy with the idea, but they're just not ready for it. And that's okay. I've had people toy with the idea and then come back to me 5 years later and say, hey, I'm ready to write my book. Great. So I take them where they're at and I say, well, do this and that. And then, let's set up another call. I always like that second call because based on what I suggest, there's always going to be questions. And I'm the kind of person I want to know what the questions are. Yeah. So we'll do that, and then they decide whether or not they want to move forward and what level, and then we go from there.
And based on specifically what they do and what the process is, it could take a certain amount of time. So getting started now is important because they could have a manuscript, but they might not have a manuscript, right?
They could. I mean, I've had a client who actually wrote her book within 2.5 weeks, but when I got a hold of it, it was like 30 pages, and I read through it, And I said, you actually have three books here. So we took and we divided into threes, and then I took it one book at a time. And I mean, she became an international bestseller. I mean, she rocked it. Great story, great book. And again, I've had people, I just got contacted with somebody last time I worked on their book was 3 or 4 years ago. And they're ready to move forward. So, people are different in their walk, people are different in their journey, in their motivational level. Sometimes life takes over and gives you challenges that you have to face. And so, you have to be, for us, we're patient. We know if it's meant to be. I say we're signed books. We don't just get books. Books are assigned to us. And I know when I'm talking to an author, I'm supposed to be working with that author, and
Totally.
they're one of the books I've been assigned to, and so I treat it as such. And so we do. It's a big it's an endeavor, and it needs to be treated seriously. But hey, let's have fun along the way. So I'm really big about having fun along the whole journey of writing your book and editing it and publishing it, marketing it, and hey, let's take it to that movie screen, right?
Absolutely, because that's the other opportunity is the movie screen,
Yeah.
and you can take it from idea all the way to the movies, and that's important to do because how many authors have you talked to before Storehouse offers this service wanted to take it to the movies?
Oh, I would say, especially the fictional or the memoir, nonfiction, memoir, autobiography, so many books. And I think, oh my goodness, this would be a great movie. And but it's challenging. It's challenging to get their story in front of the right person to say, yeah, I'm going to take that on, because people do, in those positions and producers, they get bombarded by a lot. But I'm going to tell you something I've learned too along the way is that these producers and people who are involved in films, they're really just looking for the next new discovery, the next person that no one knows about that they can bring to the screen. So, it goes both ways. Just remember that they're looking for the next big discovery, and they want to have their name associated with that as well.
Once you have that next big discovery, wow, there's a wow factor, isn't there?
There is a wow factor. There is. And so the author's all excited and the producers, everybody's excited. It's a win-win situation. Yeah.
Totally, totally. And the process to write a book, how long does it take, like to get to published?
Well, if a person is writing a book, it's really going to depend on their schedule. I do work with people on time management and how they can, go through their busy days and find time to write. But if it's me writing it, I always, try to give it, you know, give or take, depending on the length of the book, depending on the genre, depending on the amount of research I have to do. I say, to write the book, to do an edit, and to do a revision and an edit, really, that's the order. I give it, if it's a 50,000 word book, I would give it 6 to 8 months. And then, but there's a lot of things that can be happening along the way. You could be working on your cover, you can be, working on this aspect or that aspect. So it's not just all poured into that. And also, sometimes people are like, well, it's just too much for me to take on right now. Understand, when you have somebody write your book for you, they should be doing all the heavy lifting. They're just needing to get the facts from you and to review what they've written. I compare it to, uh, a boss, it may be a vice president of a bank or something, who has a secretary and who dictates that letter to the secretary to send out. It's not word for word. Sometimes she writes it for him and she signs his name to it. It's the same thing with a book. You're kind of giving people somebody information and they take that and they write it for you and you review it and you sign off on it. But that's how it is when other people write your book.
The heavy lifting, a good
The
thing to
heavy lift.
talk about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, so sometimes people hire people and yet they're not getting the heavy lifting done. Then they're not,
that's
there's a
right.
problem.
That's right. That's right. Or it's not in their voice. That's another complaint I hear from people saying, I had so and so write my book, but it just doesn't sound like me.
Ugh.
It's important to keep it in the author's voice.
Who
That's
usually does gets a book ghost written? What type is it, memoirs or is it more how to? What do you see?
I think a lot of times it's a memoir, it's an autobiography. Um, I always go with the passion. People are passionate about their story, and they should be because their story is unique. And especially if it's somebody who's accomplished something, everybody's like, oh, what'd you do? Well, how'd you do that? And a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I would be interested in my story. Well, I would, because it's different. Just like fingerprints, you have your own unique story. Nobody in this world has walked that particular incident in your shoes at the very same time with the same ingredients involved. So don't underestimate your story. Don't. It is, there is always a unique factor that maybe you just take for granted. And everybody says, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. What happened? I hear that all the time.
Right. Best place to go?
Storehousemediagroup.com.
All right. And contact Sherry to schedule a call. Appreciate it,
That's right.
Sherry.
Thank you,
All
Neil.
right.